Hey there, everyone. This is Chris at Katana. We had a customer reach out to our support and asked us a little bit about how we can help them with their bill of materials when they're setting up their account. This particular customer was a soap manufacturer, and they're making soap from basic raw ingredients and making them into a variety of shapes. So in this particular use case, we have a variety of materials, which is like a batch. And the materials, of course, are olive oil, coconut oil, water, and lye. What this customer does is they make the batch in a mixing process. And then when they're finished mixing it, it's set aside, and they can differentiate what kind of soaps they want to create from that, whether they want to create star shape, round shape, or square shape. Now, the process for making those soaps is a little different because the shape itself requires a different type of mold. So what we have to do is we have to account for the raw material that gets spent for each type of final good that's being made. And the question here is, how do we best set that up, especially in a case where we have a customer who needs to make 10 units of any product kind, let's say for 4 star-shaped soaps, 3 rounds and 3 squares. How can you upload this into Katana software the easiest way? Do you need to make a special recipe for each individual product because it uses a different mold? And can you simplify this with variants and sub-assemblies? So this is kind of what I'm going over today, to kind of how best to approach this use case with batch manufacturing, as it's quite often that a lot of customers that are using our software make in batches, but don't know the best way to incorporate it into the software to use it effectively for their business needs. So we'll go through this, and I'll show you how to get it set up. So the first approach that's commonly made first from people starting out with Katana is they want to make the full recipe for the entire product. So in order to make a whole batch of 10 units, do I need to make a separate recipe for every single product kind? And the answer to that question is actually no, you don't. Instead, we can take these raw materials and make basically a sub-assembly, and then from the sub-assembly we could put them through a basic process of a final good with the same recipe process and the same results, and how your raw material still gets accounted for after a production process is complete. I'll show you here on our Katana page. So since as a company, these products are mixed on a batch basis, meaning that you get a yield of 10 units for this particular material recipe. Inside of Katana, probably the best and easiest way to go around this is to take the recipe batch and divide it by the total that the recipe batch is for, and mark it on a piece basis. And what I mean by doing so is, let's go ahead and add this material, and let's create something for these soap molds. Instead of a final product recipe, we'll actually create a pre-mold recipe, which you can apply any specific shape to in the form of a per piece basis. So to get started, let's go ahead and add a product inside of Katana by selecting a new product card. And let's call this pre-mold soap. So what this is actually going to be is a product that is going to be a sub-assembly of all the 3 different products you have for your star shape, your round shape, and your square shape. And we're going to measure these in pieces, but we're going to divide that batch size by 10 because this particular batch size we have is equivalent to 10 output units of the final product. So to do this efficiently, we'll go into the product recipe and go ahead and add our olive oil first. Originally, the olive oil was 1,000 grams, so we're going to make this 100 grams divided by 10. The second ingredient was our coconut oil, which was also 1,000 grams, so we'll make this 100. Then we had our water ingredients, which I believe was 500 grams, so we'll make this 50. And then we will add lye. You can't have soap without lye. And this was 100 grams, so let's make this 10. And now we have basically created our entire product recipe. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to do product operations, but I will go ahead and show you this product here in our items list. So we now have pre-mold soap inside of here on a per piece basis. So what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and add our next product, which is going to be using the pre-mold soap to create one of 3 different product variations. I'll show you how this works. So we'll go in and we'll add a new product card. And in the new product card, this will be a molded soap as a final product. And this will have 3 particular variations. Let's call this shape. And the shapes are going to be star, round, and square. So effectively what we've done was, since we understand that we can make any 3 particular shapes with the exact same amount of product, then we can effectively create 3 product variants that use the same amount of the pre-mold soap formula to create a final product. So now we have all 3 of these shapes here, and then all we need to do in order to create these product recipes is we select the material. So in Katana, what you can do is you can take an existing product that you've already set up and use it as a raw material ingredient for another product. This is part of the sub-assemblies feature, and this is also allows you to build out a bill of materials using pre-existing product as well. So we're going to use pre-mold soap, and we're going to use a quantity of 1 unit, and it's going to apply to all 3 variations. And that's it, job done. So essentially, if we take a look at our items list, you'll see that in our materials, we have all of the ingredients that make soap. And in our products, we have the pre-mold soap, and this is the ingredient on a per piece basis for all 3 of the variations for the final products that you can sell to end customers. So the pre-mold soap is kind of more like a stepping stone in between the 2 to help break down your process easier and flatten out your bill of materials, so that way it's easier to manage your raw material inventory as well as the differentiating products that you have. So going back to the original formula setup, we know that the recipe that we started with yields 10 units of production of the final goods. So what we'll be doing in this case is we're going to go straight into our make page, and we're going to go ahead and add a make to stock of the pre-mold product. And I'll show you how this works. So once we select pre-mold soap, and we know that we're going to have a final output of 10 units, we can select a quantity of 10, and you'll see that our original recipe, 1,000 grams, 1,500, and 100, comes out to the 1,000 for our raw material usage. By doing so, we identify if we have all of our materials in stock. We can start our production to a work in progress, and eventually, as it's been completed in the mixing process, we can select it as done. Once it's done, we'll see in our stock that our materials have been used, and we have no more of those materials in stock, which we started with. As you can see, they were caused by a manufacturing order, which was the first one we just made. And then in products, we have pre-mold soaps of 10 units in stock. So to answer the question of how do we have the ability to create multiple variables from that original batch, where we make 10 units and we want to make 4 star shapes, 3 rounds, and 3 squares. Yeah, 4 stars, 3 rounds, and 3 squares. We'll go back into Katana and we'll add a manufacturing order of make to stock. And we will go ahead and create star shapes. We can create 3 of these. Or sorry, 4 of these. Put it to work in progress. We can create 3 rounds. Work in progress. And we can also create one last one, 3 squares. Work in progress. And you'll see that each and every single one of these items, we have the materials that are available in stock since we created the first pre-mold, and we can mark them all as done. And how this affects our inventory is the pre-mold soap now reduces, and then we have 4 stars, 3 rounds, and 3 squares in stock. So that is effectively one way to use batch manufacturing as well as product variants to track your raw material inventory and how to set up differentiations that you have in your output based on batch inputs. Thanks.